Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Now, one point of this story that I haven't really emphasized, I think, is Maitreya's work here is really just starting. His external work is really starting. Because he entered London in 1977, so 42 years ago last month, on July 19th, is when he actually entered London. He left his, his ancient retreat that he'd been living in for millennia in the Himalayas and entered London. And since then, he had been kind of living in the Asian community of London, kind of quietly, but trying behind the scenes to create the environment in order for he and these masters to come out. Working with the disciples in the world a little closer than he was probably doing back when he was just, living in the Himalayas. But his work is really just starting, because Maitreya's work is not going to be just for a couple years or so. Once he's out known for who he is, he will be here for 2,500 years as the world teacher for the age of Aquarius. And there's a lot for us to learn. And this is going to be the age that when we look back at these next 2,000 years are really going to be the age where humanity kind of wakes up and comes into its own. And it's all starting at this moment in time. So we're just on the beginning end of it. So at the other end of the age, it's going to be a totally different world and totally transformed than it is today. And I only can really visualize in my own mind the next 100 years or so. I don't even know what it's going to be like 2,500 years from now, but it's going to be incredible. But Maitreya's work he'll be central to the lives of humanity and this planet for the next 2,500 years. He's not going anywhere. So as we start to reincarnate over and over again, he'll be right there. All right, I'll see you later. See you in the 50 years or so, or whenever you come back, right? Now, the other thing is, I've emphasized in these videos, and Benjamin Creme talked about this at great length, and of course, because what's central to all these changes is the need to share the world's resources, without exception. Nothing is going to take place until the hunger issue is solved. Because, for several reasons. One, nobody can realize the self when they're starving to death. Now, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a capitalist, but these people, there's nothing they can do to get out of their situation. So even if they wanted to pull themselves up for the bootstraps and all that kind of stuff, the situation is such that they can't do that physically. They literally cannot do that. So it's not like they won't do it or they're lazy. It's just that they can't do it. Now, the second thing is, according to the masters, that the nature of our being is to realize our divinity. And you can't do that when you're starving to death. Now, Jesus lived in poverty, right? He lived, he didn't have a lot of possessions, right? And you can realize divinity very easily like that, but you can't do it when you're literally starving to death. Now, the third thing is that it's really, these people are starving for no reason, because we're living in a world with excess food. We're living in a world that already has the infrastructure to be able to ship the food that's in excess, that's really just wasted, to these people. So we already have the trains, we already have the barges with shipping containers in it and stuff like this. We already have the trucks to ship it from here to there. And like I said, we already have the food. It's simply a matter of will. We lack the will to get this done. But central to Maitreya's priorities is the principle of sharing. We have to get this started, because this will be going on forever too. It's not just going to go for a time and stop like it did right after World War II. Because Maitreya says, above all, we need peace. And the only way to create peace is to create justice. And the only way to create justice is to share the world's resources. That's it. Because if we don't do that, we're not going to be here much longer. Then if you look at the other side of the coin, environmentally, right? The only way for us to tackle the environmental problem and crisis that we have is the nations of the world have to work together. They have to trust one another. Well, the only way to create trust is to share, without exception. There's no other way to do it. And then if you look at historically, right? I had talked about this in a previous video at a little greater length, but if you look at what happened right after World War II, when the United States shared its resources, excess resources with Western Europe, right? The outcome of it was miraculous, really, nothing less than miraculous, because it took a continent that was in shambles after war, after years of war, that levels, London was, half of London was leveled, right? I mean, same thing with Rome, same thing with Berlin and Paris. I mean, they were just destroyed, right? And it built it back up rather quickly, and it helped their economies, and it helped both the United States and Western Europe economies. But the long-term effect of it was, it's not perfect, but the United States and Western Europe have a peaceful relationship with one another. And they trust each other more than they trust other nations. So that's the outcome of sharing. So it does create trust. And if we just trusted one another better, we could tackle some of these problems that we have, right? So all the other priorities that Maitreya has in place, sharing is going to be the foundation, because without that, nothing can take place. And again, it's not something that's just going to go for a time and end. It's going to be a way of life for all of us. Now, some of us have to sacrifice the way that we live today. Other ones of us don't have to sacrifice any or very much, because we're already living under that poverty level, for instance, right? So, it's going to take cooperation, right? And that's where we're really moving toward. Now, again, with the environment, right? Like, you can't. How can the United States, which isn't doing very much for the environment, right? Let's just say the United States was 100% clean, living life, not wasting any food, not cutting down too many trees and so forth. Well, would that would help the environment, but would it be enough? Wouldn't China have to do something, and Europe and Russia and Africa and all of Central and South America and Australia have to do something too? Right? So it's going to take every country to get involved in this. And like I said, the only way we can do it is to start trusting one another. So does the measure of sharing have to be perfect in order for us to start tackling the environment problem and the crisis in the environment? No. But it's a start, right? And that's why Maitreya, it's central to his priorities, is that sharing. Like I said, it's not going to end. It's going to keep going and going and going forever. But as we start to look at ourselves as one, we'll start to look to these masters as what's next? What do we need to do next? And Maitreya already has a plan in place. It's just a matter, he's going to be teaching us in that way, right? Okay, well, now you got sharing going. Okay, now we're moving toward peace and so forth. Well, now let's tackle the environment. Well, what do we do? Well, I can't tell you how many people keep coming up to me telling me more and more, oh my gosh, this is so hot outside, right? And it is. It seems like it's getting hotter, right? I mean, oh my gosh, parts of Antarctica are breaking off because they're melting and so forth. What's that going to mean and so forth? Well, Maitreya is going to tell you, well, as bad as that is, that's not even the biggest priority environmentally. The biggest problem that we're doing, and the biggest troublemaker of the environment, is really nuclear radiation, because according to the masters, it's causing all sorts of problems, from our illnesses to killing off the bees, to killing off animals, to killing off the plants. It's killing everybody off. So he's going to say, first and foremost, we need to stop what we're doing with our nuclear program and put it aside, because that's what's causing the problem. Then we can start tackling the carbon emissions out there, right? And the masters already have plans in place for that. So it's not like they have to come up with it after it's done. They already have it in place. It's just a matter of we have to kind of look at life not so capitalistic the way that we're looking today. And then as things start to go on, they're going to say, okay, well, how do we clean up our slums? Well, this is how you do this. And what about our buildings and how do we do this in our structures? And there are already plans in place for beautification of our cities. And then as things go on, I'm sure, and they can multitask. These masters are master multitaskers, so it's not like you have to do one then the other. They can also do other things, right? But one thing that Maitreya is going to be teaching the whole world is showing us and teaching us who we really are as souls. And that's really what he's going to be doing for the next 3,000 years. And what does that mean, right? Well, it's going to take us from where we are today to where we can't even imagine 2,000 years from now. So it's far more grandiose than most people realize. And it has a far more reaching effect on the way that we will view life and the universe and ourselves than we could ever possibly imagine at this point. But it always starts with, and as I say, it always starts with, and as always, take action. Help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos. Have a great day.